Most artists make the same mistake when working from photographs. They try to paint everything, every window, every brick, every tree, and every sign. But here's the problem: cameras record information, great paintings create experiences. Today, I'll show you why some of my favorite watercolor paintings only work because I ignored most of what was in the original photograph. By the end of this video, you'll learn the exact process I use to decide what stays, what goes, and how to simplify even the busiest reference photographs into stronger, more atmospheric watercolor paintings. Whether you're painting cityscapes, landscapes, architecture, or travel scenes, these techniques will help you stop copying photographs and start designing better paintings. You're going to see that I did two versions of this painting. I did one in my watercolor class in Raleigh, and I did another one the next day in Durham. There are big differences between these two paintings, and I actually like both of these paintings equally. There are differences, enough differences. I think it makes it look different, and that just also goes to show that you can't recreate watercolor. What happened on one day, you're not going to get the same results the next day. Even if you're using the same colors, the same composition, you're trying to paint it the same way, you can never get the exact same thing. But for me, that's what's fun about watercolor, because I always have an idea in my head what's going to happen. And then literally 5 seconds or 5 minutes later, you're like, well, let's just go with this instead. It always ends up being better than what I could imagine in my head. And that's why I like painting and not being such a slave to the original photograph. Let the paint kind of dictate what's going to happen. Embrace that. And I swear it works out better. There's been a trend again, I feel, in the art world where photorealism is kind of taking over and winning a bunch of awards. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that, me being a professional photographer turned painter, I don't want to make a picture that looks like a photograph, because I could take a photograph of it instead of making a painting of it and save myself countless hours. So when I look at a painting and I can't tell if it's an oil, acrylic, or watercolor because it looks to me like a photograph, then I think it's kind of an epic failure. And this is my own personal opinion. I know a lot of people won't agree with that, but when I look at a watercolor, I want a watercolor that says to me, this was painted with watercolor. I want to see the blossoms. I want to see the granulation. I want it to look like watercolor. I want emotion. I want it to be expressive. And if it just looks like a photograph, it might be a great photograph. There's nothing wrong with that, but it just doesn't do much for me. One of the things to remember about photography is that the human eye can see about this much information, 12 stops from dark to light, basically. But the problem is with digital cameras can typically only see about 7 to 8 stops. So you take a photograph someplace. I know people say the photography is reality. And I'm like, that's not really the case, because as a photographer, you can distort things quite a bit. You can bring out the shadows. You can knock out the highlights, all of them depending on the exposure. And that's why if you ever look at like professional photo shoots, whether it's for a cinematography or photography, they've got lots of lights, they've got flags, because what they're doing is they're taking that 12 stops of information, they're compressing it to 8 so they can get more information of those things. They're putting lights into the shadows. They're knocking back the highlights. And that's one of the things. So when you look at a photograph, you have to think to yourself that, okay, this is not reality. You're the painter. You're going to make those decisions. Don't be afraid to change the photographs as much or as little as you want. But when I do paintings based on photographs, I just want the photographs to be the interpretation, just the idea, and then I want to reinterpret it on the painting to make it something different, something better, something magical. Put my memories into that and make it more personal and not just a photograph. So the first thing I do when I'm looking at a reference photograph, I'm trying to get ideas for painting. Obviously, the first thing I just want to choose a decent photograph. There's nothing worse than trying to work from a bad picture. It's always great to have a really good photograph with high contrast, with great lighting sources that's exposed properly, that's actually in focus, for example. Because if you're working from a really crappy photograph, I hate to say that word, with no shadows, it's hard to reinterpret all the things and get it correct. So the questions I have to ask myself once I choose a photograph is, what's going to be the focal point? Do I want the focal point to be in this area or that area? And then what supports the focal point? So the question I have to ask myself after that. What's going to make your eye go here and here and here? And then what distracts from the focal point? And this is the advantage of being a painter as opposed to a photographer, because when you're a photographer, if there's a big truck sitting in front of the church you want to take a photograph of, you have to wait for that truck to leave. It might not leave, or if there's scaffolding there, you're kind of just out of luck. But as a painter, what we can do is we can take the picture and we can make it better. We can take out the things that distract from the focal point to make the painting better. The watercolor painting I did of the Manhattan skyline from this thing called The Edge. It's like the 100th floor of this building. You can go up there. It's pretty expensive, but definitely worth it doing. Fantastic photographs. This photograph has a lot going on. A ton. I don't want to have to paint all that detail because I could spend hours and hours. And if it just looks like a photograph, what's the point? So I'm looking at this and I have to think to myself, how am I going to simplify this? There's thousands of windows. There's countless buildings. There's a lot of people. There's visual overload. If I painted every single window, nobody would know where to look. So I've got to simplify. I have to figure out where I'm going to have my darks, where I'm going to have my lights. I'm going to change the picture quite a bit. It was a sunset picture. The light was pretty good, but I'm going to make it even better, hopefully. In the original photograph, pretty much everything's in focus. I think it was shot with my cell phone. You can't really adjust the aperture very easily. In the painting, though, I don't want to have the people in focus. I want to have just some shapes for the people to suggest people standing on this. I want to have the buildings in the background. It could be the things that are going to be in focus. They're going to be the things that are going to be sharp. I do want the people in it because people give a painting sense of scale. If you don't have people in it, or like a car or something, people don't know how big those buildings are. Now, this is a pretty iconic scene. Most people are going to know it's Manhattan pretty much right away. But if you don't, it's always good to put people into things. And I had a juror one time tell me for a show, she said, Ryan, I would have given you an award if you'd put like a person in the city scene or like a bicycle for the sense of scale. I remember that because that meant the difference between winning hundreds of dollars or not winning hundreds of dollars, which is what happened. I didn't win anything. So in the original photograph of the Manhattan skyline, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the buildings in the background. I'm going to keep those shapes, geometric shapes, horizontal lines, vertical lines, 90-degree angles, 45-degree angles, because you don't really see that very much in nature. And then for the people in the foreground, they're going to be more organic shapes, so more round shapes, not 45-degree angles, not horizontal lines. And that's going to render as people. Now, you also have to think about where your darks and your lights going to be. Now, people are in the foreground in this picture, so you should technically have more contrast there, typically. But I want your eye to go to the background as opposed to the foreground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lightest areas in the foreground where there's going to be the highlights on the people. Everything in the background is going to be knocked back a couple of values. And what that does is that's going to move your eye through the piece a little bit. I'm always thinking about composition. I'm always thinking about design, how to move your eye through a piece with different colors. I'm not using a ton of colors in this painting. It's kind of some yellows and purples. And I worked with multiple layers. I typically don't use a lot of colors. I'm going to have another video on this later because if you have fewer colors, you get more harmonious color that works together. If you just throw in a sap green all of a sudden in this painting, it might look freaking awesome, but who knows? But it's probably going to look really, really weird. So don't throw something strange in there unless you have a reason for doing it. And that's one of the things I think is so much fun about painting because you have unlimited options available to you. That's also the scary thing because you have unlimited options. There's so many ways to screw it up. But, if you do screw it up, it's just a piece of paper. People don't throw a fit, don't smash a window. Just start over again. And we all have days where we absolutely stink. That's okay. The more work you do beforehand, thinking about how you actually want to do the painting, though, the more preparation you do, the better the results are going to be. The camera's job is to record everything. The painter's job is to decide what matters. The biggest breakthrough in my paintings didn't come from learning how to add more detail. It came from learning what to leave out. The next time you're working from a reference photograph, don't ask yourself, what else should I paint? Instead, ask, what can I remove? You might be surprised to discover that the strongest paintings often contain far less information than the photographs that inspired them. Enjoyed this content, please hit subscribe. If you're interested in all the materials used in this painting, check out the YouTube description below. Thank you for watching, and happy painting.